So good to see all you guys. So glad you made it back. This is class 2 of the Healing School. I think it's on. And one of the first things we want to do is give some testimonies from healings that people got from last week. So I just want to also say, we want to encourage everyone to testify if God has done something for them, because God gets the glory for that. But we also absolutely don't want you to feel pressured to report something that didn't happen. If you don't feel pressured in any way to say something, that you got healed of something. If you didn't, that's not what this is about. We just want you to be true. Tell us what really happened, and we'll know that really happened. And so anyway, I want to ask Bob Hernandez if he'll come up here. Well, we need the camera to shine on you to show you how you're walking without a cane, without a back brace. Tell us about what happened to you.
I don't know what happened. I wore a back brace. I've been wearing it for over a year. And the past 6 months or so, it got to where I needed it from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. And sometimes I was telling friends back there that I felt like I needed to get up and put it on after I went to bed. But I took it off last Monday, and I haven't had it back on. And also I walked with a walking stick. This time a year ago, I thought I was going to have to use a walker.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
And then I got a little bit better because I had a bunch of stuff going on, but I've been using a walking stick or a cane, either one, and I preferred the walking stick. It was just easier. But I collapsed it in here, and I threw it in the back of my truck, and I took it out one day when I went to Walmart during the week, but I was just walking in with it. And I thought,
Out of habit?
Yeah, out of habit. So I put it in the basket, and I didn't use it. And it's still back there. I don't know if I'm completely healed. I still have a little bit of numbness, and I get it not necessarily standing, because I've been standing a lot with my grandson, and I've been walking. I walked to the back of Walmart and back and around in there, and I couldn't even make it halfway to the back.
Wow.
Without leaning on the basket or using the walking stick. So
Praise God.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much, Bob. Who else got any healing last week that would like to testify? Candy? Oh, you're just turning off the music. Okay. I didn't even realize it was on. Okay. I'll bring the microphone to you.
Okay, I'm Miss Stella Willis, and having a problem with my lower back and my thighs. Praise God, my back is not hurting anymore.
Praise God.
But I still have a little soreness in my thighs. But I could feel the healing before I left from up there. The warm heat sensation back there.
Awesome. Praise God. Thank you so much. And we'll just keep on praying for you guys. Just keep coming up at the end, and we'll keep praying until we see it completely manifested for you guys. Hallelujah. Okay. So, I guess we'll go ahead and get started with our first class. We have the school divided into 2 sections. Part 1, we'll talk about nutrition and how to take care of our bodies in the natural. And then we take a break, and part 2 will be where we talk about the spirit and soul realm of our being, because we are a tripart being. We are a spirit, we have a soul, we live in a body. We need to be whole and well in all 3 areas to fully be whole and well. So today's class, we're going to talk about the role that nutrition plays in our health, because it is the number 1 foundation. It's really the cornerstone of good health. And it's the number 1 thing of what we call the 8 laws of health. So the 8 laws of health are number 1 is nutrition, 2 is exercise, pure water, getting good rest and sleep, sunshine, fresh air and the quality of the air we breathe, limit toxins and detoxify the body, and limit electromagnetic pollution. So we'll be covering these things eventually over the next few weeks, covering each one. And I think you'll be really pleased to learn some of the things you're going to learn, because I'm learning a lot. In fact, most of tonight is all new material for me. I've been just studying and reading and learning things myself that I'm astounded by, and I think you will be too. So, you know, in our first class, we did talk about the differences between taking a holistic approach and of treating the whole person, spirit, soul, and body, versus, and getting to the root cause of the problem, versus the modern Western approach, which is basically to treat symptoms. So let's talk a little bit about holistic medicine and what that is. According to the National Institute of Health in 1991, so this is a long time ago, this study is, but at least 1/3 of Americans use some form of holistic or alternative medicine. It's also called complementary alternative medicine, and now they're even calling it complementary integrative medicine, because really the goal, the ideal situation would be where we integrate both the science of Western medicine that is good, and the technology and equipment and things they have that are good, along with alternative medicine with, natural things. And so an ideal world would have both of those. And so that's the goal they're trying to accomplish by renaming it the complementary integrative medicine. And this is actually a part of the National Institutes of Health. So they're working towards understanding all of these things and researching them and finding out more. But anyway, they say at least a third of Americans use some form of medicine, alternative medicine. So whether that's taking echinacea for a cold, or taking a fish oil capsule, getting a massage, going to a chiropractor, using essential oils, these are all things that they would classify under holistic medicine. Now, there was a little more recent study that was done that said approximately 38%, so about 4 out of 10 adults. I hope, eventually we'll get that at least half the people using alternative medicine, and 12% of children, 1 in 9 children, are also given some form of alternative medicine. However, worldwide, this is in America, but worldwide it's a very different picture. Worldwide, up to 80% of the world's population uses alternative medicine as their primary care. They don't really have a lot of the Western medicine we have. So they say 65 to 80% of the world's population, about 3 billion people, rely on alternative medicine. And in 1993, they said American consumers spent almost $1.5 billion on herbal remedies, 10 times more than was spent on over-the-counter sleeping pills from grocery stores and drugstores. That astounded me. And then in Germany, 1 out of 3 drugs is actually an herb. So they're very into it. In a Newsweek magazine article in December 2002, Americans made more visits to holistic healthcare providers than to medical doctors, and spent more money out of pocket to do so, about $30 billion by recent estimates. So it is becoming more mainstream as every year more and more Americans are, waking up and realizing they really have to take charge of their health. Gone are the days where you just go to a doctor and rely on him to do it all for you without you researching and learning and possibly doing some things yourself alternatively. Now, undoubtedly, the best, safest, cheapest, and most effective alternative medicine there is, anybody want to guess? Well, there you go, yeah. That would be the best. Divine healing would be the best, safest, cheapest. But this is part 1. We're talking about nutrition. Our diets. Our diets are, the chief cornerstone of our health. Every cell, every system in your body, every organ is produced from the food we eat. So now I want to read you something out of this book, Food Your Miracle Medicine by Gene Carper, just on page 1 about our food. I just thought this was so brilliant. Who can say it is not a minor miracle that garlic can kill cancer cells? That substances in spinach can imprison and paralyze the virus that would otherwise cause cervical cancer? That an obscure compound in asparagus and avocados in test tube experiments stop the proliferation of the virus responsible for the greatest infectious tragedy of our day, AIDS? That cabbage compounds can help detoxify our bodies of 20th century air pollutants, a job never anticipated at the time of the plant's creation. Now, I'll disagree with that because I'm sure God knew that when he created it. But, that compounds spun out by plants to fight off their own destruction become angels of mercy inside our bodies to prevent blood clots, fomented by a fatty diet out of control. That particles freed by digestion from fibrous plants can tell our liver to reduce its cholesterol output. That chemicals from the plant kingdom can enter our brains and affect the transmission of messages among neurons, influencing our mood, our memories, our alertness, everything we cherish as distinguishing our humanness. Make no mistake about it, eating is not a trivial event for the billions upon billions of cells that constitute your being. So I just thought that was really cool how she worded that about food being such an important part of us. Research shows that food can help us have vigor and energy and strength, or the wrong foods can make us miserable and in pain and ill. Food can help us think better and elevate the mood, or it can do the opposite. It can reduce our concentration. I learned that the hard way one day when I was in a class type environment, and at break, I was studying, doing great, and at break, we had a coffee and donuts. So then we went back to class, and I'm telling you, I couldn't concentrate to save my life. I was getting it really good before the break, and after that, I couldn't keep up. My mind wandered. It was ridiculous how my concentration just went out the window. So still reading from her book, foods also can keep the lens of the eye from developing cataracts. Foods can trigger headaches and asthma attacks as well as prevent them. It can cure diarrhea in infants and constipation in the elderly. It can alter immunity, chasing away common colds and hay fever and so much more. Literally, so many of our problems are due to our diets. We're digging our graves with our teeth. There's hardly a health problem or natural bodily process that's not influenced in some form or fashion by what you put in your mouth. Food is the breakthrough drug of the 21st century, if we will look at it like that and treat it as such. Again, I'm reading from her book. Countless tests confirm that foods can act as anticoagulants, antidepressants, anti-ulcerants, antithrombotics, and analgesics, tranquilizers, sedatives, cholesterol reducers, cancer fighters and preventives, hormones, fertility agents, laxatives, antidiarrheal agents, immune modulators, antihypertensive, diuretics, decongestants, anti-inflammatories. Do I need to go on? I mean, literally, they are medicine. Food is medicine. And I love this book because you look up whatever ailment you have, and she'll tell you diet-wise what you can do, what foods to eat, what things to do to correct that. Wasn't it Hippocrates that said, let food be your medicine and your medicine be food? And that's, an ideal way to do it. And the cool thing is that the same diet that prevents heart disease, prevents cancer, prevents stroke, prevents a lot of other things, just about anything else. The problem is, which diet is that? Because there's over 100 different diet theories out there. We have the paleo diet, we have the Mediterranean diet, we have the caveman diet, we have the carbohydrate addicts diet, we have the Atkins diet, the high protein, low carb diet, we have so many diets out there and so many theories out there about how you should eat. Everybody's got one. So how do you really make sense of it all? How do you know what you should be eating? Most of these diets boil down to two different kinds of diets. You have a plant-based diet, like the Mediterranean diet, or you have an animal meat-based diet, which is like the paleo diet. Now, it's interesting. Most of you know me and know that I'm a big fan of the blood type diet, which we are going to talk about some today, but along with other things. But it's interesting that the most common blood types are A and O. And A's should predominantly do a vegetarian type diet, the Mediterranean, where O's will be better on a meat-eating diet. And so it's interesting that those are the two most common diets. And yet you wonder, some people do great on one diet and not another. We've had people come in who, back when Atkins was really popular many years ago, that really did well on it, lost weight, felt good, and others were miserable and bloated and hated it and couldn't stand it and didn't do well. Well, they were probably type A's. They needed the Mediterranean diet, something more like that, a lot of vegetables. So again, with all the theories out there, there's always one person who does well on one and not another. So how do you know which one is the right one for you? It all boils down into what is termed in medicine biochemical individuality. So what this means is no two people are alike. Surprise, surprise. You know, we all know we have different fingerprints, but we have everything about us is unique to us. So whether it is, you know, our hereditary ancestry, heritage, our blood type, our endocrine system, what we inherited again through our parents, different things affect us differently. And I remember a long time ago when I first learned about this biochemical individuality, I was taking a correspondence course on nutrition, and they talked about a study that was done with, you know, mice, and how these mice were quintuplets. They, you know, same parents, same mom and dad, they were quintuplets. So genetically they should have been identical, right? And then they fed them the exact same diet their whole life. But then when they died and they opened them up, they found that the spleen of one would be twice the size of the others. And the heart would be larger in one than the others. And one would already be beginning the process of clogging arteries, I think. And so on. There was just so many differences between them all. It was really quite amazing. And that really showed to me how different we all are. So the secret to a healthy diet is choosing the one that's right for you based on your individual type. Ann Louise Gittleman is a leading nutritionist of our day. She has impeccable credentials. She's written many, many books, one of which is called Your Body Knows Best. And I hunted everywhere and couldn't find my copy of it. But I want to tell you a little bit about what she says in her book, because I found it online and got it that way. And then also her personal story about how she came to learn how these individual diets are important. She says in her book, we all have various inherited tendencies, physical limitations, likes and dislikes, fingerprints and so on that make us unique and different from everyone else, which is why a one-size-fits-all diet plan doesn't work for everyone. A diet that's right for you should take into consideration your ancestry and genetic heritage, your blood type, your metabolic type, and your body type. The truth is we have to look at factors in our very biology, in our genes, that determine what we should be eating. Imagine an Eskimo on a low-fat vegetarian diet. That wouldn't fly very good. You know, traditional Eskimo diet, they eat about 10 pounds of meat a day and a lot of animal fat. And yet they have virtually no heart disease or cancer in their diet. But now think about the typical Oriental or Indian diet, where they eat mostly vegetables and rice, a little bit of fish. You know, would this low-fat, low-protein diet be enough to help the Eskimo survive the harsh weather conditions? No, it would not. Ancient Chinese writings and early Egyptian and Greek physicians all incorporated this concept of our biological uniqueness and personalized nutrition in their regimens. In modern times, there's also been a lot of books that have come out about understanding this importance and eating right for your different various types. There's a book called Food is Your Best Medicine by Henry Beeler, and he led the way with his classification of individuals according to the dominance of their glands, according to whether they're adrenal, thyroid, or pituitary glands or dominant. And so that became known as the body type diet or the body shape diet. I don't know if y'all can see that book over there. I've got one. You see we have a pear shape, an apple shape, and a what is that? It should be a chubby all over person. It looks like a skinny person to me. So again, are you pear-shaped or are you chubby all over? Are you more rounded, upper body fat? All of that's determined by your glands. Where fat is deposited on the body is determined by your glands. So we need to look at that and take those things into consideration. And when you think about our glands and how delicate they are and how stress devastates them and how toxic diets and deficiencies affect them, you can imagine that it would manifest in our bodies. Because our glands, there's like 9 of them, they are responsible for so much in your body. I mean, literally everything. So, and they affect your your moods. Just ask any woman going through PMS or menopause if estrogen doesn't affect their moods, you know. All of our glands together only weigh about 2 ounces. And, but I figure those 2 ounces are 2 of the most important ounces in our body. And we need to look at them to make sure, you know, that they're balanced. And if they're not, let's get them balanced with diet. There's also some other plans. Dr. Sheldon classified people by the classifications of ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph. Y'all might have heard those terms. And in the 70s, Dr. Kelly developed a system on metabolic typing. So whether you're a fast burner or a slow burner and so on. So there's online tests for all of these if you ever want to go and just kind of figure out what you are. But I'll tell you one that I think covers them all so well, takes into consideration almost all of these things, and it's the genotype diet, which incorporates your blood type, because the blood type is part of your genetic history and ancestry. But it's just one part. There's so many other parts to your genetic history, and so this book helps you determine what your genetic type is. And there's like extensive questions that you fill out and answer, and it will help you determine. There are 6 genotype diets. He says, don't ask me why there are 6. I can't tell you that any more than I know why there are 4 blood types. But I feel like this book covers more of all of it together than any book out there. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Now, I will say, you know, Adam and Eve probably didn't have to worry about any of this, you know, but we don't live in paradise anymore. And so we live in a fallen world, and it might behoove us to check into these things. But, you know, now if you're healthy and robust and don't have allergies and have energy and you don't have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or high triglycerides or high blood sugar or joint problems or skin rashes or allergies, yeah, exactly. You're dead. Then maybe you don't need to listen to what I got to say. But you know, if you're like that, obviously you found the thing that's working for you. But for the rest of us, I'll continue talking about all this. You know, the basic principles of healthy eating haven't changed really. You know, we want to eat generous amounts of fruits and vegetables. We want to eat whole foods as close to the nature as possible, not processed foods. And this has been around, you know, forever. And those principles still apply. It's just which vegetables do you eat, which meats do you eat, that we would look at with the genetic type. And also the issue of moderation. You know, a lot of people would take the idea, well, all things in moderation. And, you know, some of that can be true. But the problem is that we tend to realize that pretty soon that moderation is bigger and bigger and takes more of our plate and it fills us up more than anything else. So it's, you know, it's something you got to keep in mind. Now, again, I want to talk to you about Ann Louise Gittleman, the woman who wrote the book Your Body Knows Best, among many other books, but how she came to learn about how we all need different, unique diets. She was studying to become a nutritionist, and in the process, she learned that, you know, basically a vegetarian diet, by all studies, seemed to indicate they had a healthier life. They had less cancer, less heart disease, less cholesterol problems. They didn't live longer. Vegetarians don't live longer. Animal meat people live the longest. But she embraced the whole let's don't eat animals and became a vegetarian. And she was a very good vegetarian. She was very careful to eat healthy. She combined her grains and beans. She made sure she was getting protein. And she was living at the time with a naturopathic doctor and his family. And they were all energetic, robust. They didn't have allergies. There was no problems with them. She was eating the exact same foods they were. And while they were healthy, she began getting weak and sick and tired and anemic, and her hair started coming out. Finally, she went to a doctor to see what was going on, and the doctor told her that her body was literally catabolizing itself. In other words, it was taking the protein out of her blood and out of her muscles to try to get enough protein. And he told her, you have got to go out here and eat some red meat. And she was like, no, I'm careful to combine my grains and beans. And he said, no, you can't do it. You have to have meat. For whatever reason, we don't know. You know, at the time they didn't know. So she went out, ate red meat. It took her about 3 years before she really regained her health. But she realized, I can't be a vegetarian. Well, one of her good friends becomes a vegetarian. And this woman, she loses weight, she has energy, her allergies go away, all these problems disappear with her. And so she thought everybody should be a vegetarian. Well, Anne figured out she already knew she couldn't. Well, anyway, this woman got pregnant, and the entire time that she was pregnant and nursing, she craved animal meat. So she did eat meat while she was pregnant and nursing, but when she quit nursing, she lost the desire and went back to being a vegetarian. Well, so the interesting thing about that was Anne and that baby were type O bloods who need animal meat. Whereas that family she lived with and her friend were type A bloods, and they do thrive on a vegetarian diet. And so again, that the saying, one man's food is another man's poison, is very true. And it makes a lot of sense. And let me explain why I believe this is so important. And I'm going to read again from this book, Food, Your Miracle Medicine, page 17, because she says it better than I can. Do you have headaches, hives, asthma, eczema, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome? Are you depressed, moody, sluggish? Does your baby have colic, rashes, diarrhea? Do your kids have wheezing, ear infections, migraines? There is growing scientific recognition that such maladies can be triggered or aggravated by the body's innate objection to certain foods. Who hasn't already figured out that there are some things that if they eat, they don't feel well on? They just know they can't have them. That gives them a bellyache, whatever. They figure it out already, they can't have it. So these are not ordinary allergies. These are a strange sort of food torture unique to certain individuals, and no one understands exactly why they occur. But one thing is certain, they are real, and recognizing them has solved many a health mystery. Overlooking the possibility of such adverse food reactions, as often happens, dooms many to needless years of ill health and suffering. So again, these aren't true allergies because they don't trigger an IgE antibody reaction in the body like a true food allergy would. They're just a food intolerance, or they call them food sensitivities. And I believe that probably these foods are wrong for their blood type and their genetic type. If we could figure it out, we'd probably find that that's the case. So knowing your blood type is an important tool for understanding how your body reacts to food, your susceptibility to disease, your reaction to stress, and so much more. Now, I want to explain about the blood type diet, this Eat Right for Your Type, and also the genotype. What happens was Dr. D'Adamo wrote this book 20 years ago, and this is actually the 20th anniversary edition, the brand new one that just came out. It's updated and revised. He tells how he came in to understand all about the blood type. His father was a naturopathic doctor for 50 years, and his father kept meticulous records and charts and lists on everybody, and he was a firm believer that blood type had something to do with it. So he typed everybody's blood, and he made lists of their, what their health problems were, what foods they ate, and he noticed over a period of many years that there was a pattern that emerged, that if you were this blood type and you ate these foods, you would have these health conditions. And it just bore out over and over and over again. And so he wrote a book, One Man's Food is Another Man's Poison. Well, of course, he was laughed to scorn by the medical community, and it didn't, really take off like it could have. Well, so his son, Peter D'Adamo, comes along, and he decides, he's in medical school as well, to be a naturopathic doctor, and he decides, now we have a little bit more modern technology, we have some better equipment, we have ways of testing things better. So he decided to prove his dad's theory right or wrong, one way or another. We were going to scientifically prove this. And he set out to do so, and he did. If I can remember all this right, basically, if you eat a food that's wrong for you, it will cause your blood to agglutinate. And how they know that is they can take a drop of your blood, put it on a petri dish, okay? So then they have the pure food extracts, like what you might be allergy tested with, and put a drop of that food on that drop of blood, and literally, under a microscope, you can watch the blood. It separates from itself and it forms clumps. So instead of your blood being all free-flowing, it scatters in clumps. It's called agglutination. So this is what happens if you got your wrong blood type. Let's say you get a blood transfusion and you're getting your type B and they're giving you type A blood. Well, it probably could very well kill you. And this is one of the reasons why unless you get emergency medical care, it very well could kill you. Because every blood cell has on it a little marker that says, I'm type A, or whatever the case may be. O's don't have any markers, but that's why they're the universal donor. Their markers don't interfere with these markers. So B has these markers, and the two don't get along, okay? But O's don't have any markers, so anyone can take O blood. AB blood has markers for both A and B, so they get along with A and B. That's why ABs are the universal recipient. They can take A or B or O because it doesn't have any markers. So this is kind of a simplified version of it, but so food at the cellular level have little markers on them too. These are called antigens, and so sometimes these markers on this food doesn't line up with the markers on your blood type, and this is and your blood will agglutinate if you eat that food, which will cause all kinds of problems. So. And the blood type antigens are not just in your blood, they're all over your body. They're actually in your digestive system from your mouth all the way to your intestines. They're in your nasal passages and lungs. So these antigens are everywhere, and they're influencing how your body reacts to food through several different factors. So let me tell you, when I first heard about the blood type diet, it was literally 20 years ago. The book had just come out, and I bought it, ordered it through the store, but I hadn't read it yet. A woman came in the store, and she said, have you read that book? And I said, no, I haven't. I feel led to read it, but I haven't read it yet. She said, well, let me tell you my story. I read the book. The book is divided into, it takes every food, grains, beans, legumes, nuts, oils, fruits, vegetables, and it tells you for each blood type whether this is highly beneficial for you, which means it works like a medicine for you. Or there's neutral foods that just act like a good nutritional food for you. And then there's the avoid foods, which are the foods that work like a toxin to you. They're actually, poisonous to you. And so she said, I just stopped eating the foods that it said to avoid. Now, she said, for years, I have treated myself naturally out of a health food store, but she had 4 major health issues. The only 2 I can remember was high blood pressure and I think high cholesterol. I can't remember what the other 2 were. But she said, I just take supplements out of the health food store. I spend hundreds of dollars every month doing it, but I treat myself naturally and I'm doing okay. Well, she stopped eating the foods it said to avoid, and she said, all of those problems went away. I no longer have to take all these supplements, and I lost weight to boot. And so that was like a really good testimony about it. So we looked into it a little bit more, and I had read the book, and had incorporated a few things, but hadn't really, jumped in and did it all. Well, one day y'all have seen the commercials on TV for Nopalea cactus juice, maybe? They were infomercials that went around for a while, and we had a lot of requests for them, so I got them in, and I started taking it too. I was at the end of my 2nd bottle whenever I broke out in a rash like you wouldn't believe, and it just itched me. I was just, I thought I'm going to have to buy turtlenecks and wear scarves because this rash was horrible looking. And I remember the blood type diet saying for my blood type, which is B, that if I didn't eat right, I would have skin issues. And so I got the book back out and poured over each thing, what am I doing? And there was nopal cactus as an avoid for me. And here I was, I'd been taking it for 2 months. And so as soon as I quit, within a few days, that rash went away. And so I know I became a believer. Now, not every food has a reaction that quickly. Again, it took me 2 months before I started showing it up. And a lot of people don't make that connection that that's what's doing it if they don't know that that's an avoid. Now, let me tell you another thing. Herbs are also included in this category of some herbs are better for you and some are not. And we had a customer come in the store one time who told us that she said that when I take echinacea, I feel worse. Well, I kind of went, oh, one of those. I thought she just didn't know what she was talking about. Well, a little while later, we had an employee who was a very intelligent woman, and she also said, when I take echinacea, I feel worse. And I thought, well, I know she's not flaky, so I thought, okay, there's a reason, I don't know why. Well, it turns out echinacea is not good for O-type blood, and Angie was an O-type blood. And so, and O-type does better on other things, but like A's do well on echinacea. They're the ones who just really thrive on echinacea. So this goes even down to what herbs to take. So following the blood type diet isn't all that difficult. There's a few things, I had to give up coffee, and that made a huge difference in me. I'm not supposed to have chicken, which is a really hard thing to do, but turkey is great, and I love it, and so I use that as much as possible. Most of it, though, is just substituting. So, for instance, I'm not supposed to have orange juice, but I can have apple juice or grape juice. I don't care which one I have. I'll take the grape juice or apple juice. I'm not supposed to use peanut oil, but I can have walnut oil, so I just buy that instead. Some of it is just simple. Let's just eat these foods and not these. I can have lima beans, but not pinto beans. So you're not really giving up a lot. You're just making substitutions. And if you're doing something every day for years, and you think about, I think about what I'm doing is helping me and not maybe hurting me and me not know it, I think that's really a good thing to do. I think it's worth checking into. Again, if you're having some health issues, why not look at that? In Ann's book again, Your Body is Your Best Doctor, on page 61. No, wait, hang on a minute. What happened? Did I get these out of order? Oh my goodness. No, okay, well, what time is it? 7. Okay, so in the book, Your Body is Your Best Doctor, she says, did you know that most of the food you buy comes from chemically treated seeds, planted in chemically treated soil, saturated with chemical poisons to kill the insects, refined and processed with a huge number of chemical additives and preservatives of one type or another, and finally packaged or canned with chemical contaminants. So it's no wonder we're all sick and tired and can't get up and go. I had a chart, and I didn't bring it, but I have this chart. We call it the disease span chart. So on one end, it's white. And these people are healthy, they have a lot of energy, they're feeling great. And then it's kind of a light gray, and then it goes to a dark gray, and then it goes to black. Okay. So in between, in the gray areas, we have people who basically, these are where most of us live. We have a lack of energy. We get colds and flus and infections a lot. We have blood sugar problems, high blood pressure problems, and so on. We call them the walking wounded. Their get up and go has got up and left. And they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And this is where most people live. Most people live in this area. Of course, the black is basically you're approaching death. So we want to live in the white area. And so nutrition is going to be a big part in that. Now, we'll maybe get a little bit more into that later. Is there any questions about anything right now that anybody has?
You had one book on diet. Which one is it you recommend?
Well, I think I would go with the blood type diet or the genotype diet. I mean, he wrote both books. 20 years after he wrote this, during that 20 years, he began researching more and more about our genetic ancestry, your heritage. Where did you come from? Who are your ancestors? And he incorporates that into here. So it fine-tunes this, actually. It really personalizes it even more. It customizes it even more. And there's a few changes that are made when you know your genetic type. And again, it's based more on your glands and a lot of other things like that. I like how it incorporates many of these things. It's not just one or the other. So the genotype diet, it's a little process to go through to figure out which one you are, but it's well worth it. And they also have, you can go online to their website and do it all online, and then they will print out for you your foods that you should eat. They even have recipes, menus. It's a fantastic system they have set up, or you can do it manually with the book. And we also have these genotype kits. I forgot to bring, there's a kit that you can use because you have to measure things. Oh yeah, and the app. I love the app. On your phones, you can download the Eat Right for Your Type app. And it will tell you, just download it and go to A or B, whatever you are, and it'll tell you what foods you can have and not have. So it's easy to carry around when you go to the grocery store and you're looking to buy fruits and vegetables. Which one, should I get? Just look it up real quick, and it's free. It's a free app. So that's very helpful in fine-tuning your things. And so I do highly recommend that. I really do. I think it's made a big difference to me. Again, I told you when I started following that, was that 2 years ago? I lost 15 pounds in 3 months and wasn't trying to lose weight. I was not dieting. I was not, watching calories and carbs and fat and all that. I was just trying to eat right for my blood type. And weight loss is a natural side effect if you need it. Because what it's doing, it's bringing your body into balance. And that's the goal of nutrition is to bring our bodies into balance. I would think the Genotype would, to me, is the most customized, personalized diet plan you can get for you. And so, any other questions?